All right. Okay, good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started. Sorry, a couple minutes late, some technical glitches here that we're trying to work out. My name is Jonathan Lyons. I'm the principal here at Carmel High School. This is the ending of my second year as the principal, and it's been a wild ride since I showed up from Southern California. Didn't imagine I'd be principaling in the middle of a global pandemic for the first time in the century. So that's been an interesting experience. But while I have only been here a short amount of time, I have come to very much love the school and everything that it encompasses, and the kids are fantastic, and it's been a joyous experience. And now that we are finally back on campus, we are in week 3 of our return to school. Having the kids back on campus, having events back on campus has been, the life has returned to the school. And hopefully those of you in the community are also starting to see a little bit of normal appear in your lives as we get through some of this craziness. So tonight is the first of 2 open forums that we are hosting in regards to a discussion around the Carmel High School mascot. And what I'm going to try to do tonight is talk a little bit about how we arrived at this particular conversation, and also what we're looking for in terms of input from the community at large. I think one of the unique things about Carmel as an area, as a city, is you do have a large number of people who went through Carmel High School, remember a lot of the experiences they had at CHS, had opportunities to have a memorable 4 years, and we want that to be a part of the fabric moving forward of the school. So I'm going to take just a few moments to kind of talk through where we are to date in this conversation, how this conversation is unfolding, and then open up opportunities for you as community members to weigh in on this. We do have some other members of the Mascot study group with us this evening, and I will, in deference to that group, we have not made that listing public, but if you have questions at the end of this experience or follow-ups, I will leave my email address and contact, and I will make sure to relay any communication you wish to share or have shared has been relayed with the group at large. But they are here tonight to listen to what you as the community have to say. Like I said, this is the first of 2 of these. We will also be hosting a in-person version of a forum next Thursday, the 13th, here at the high school, outside in our amphitheater, weather permitting. There is a sign up for that because we are limited in the number of people we can have at a function to 100 people while we are currently in our restrictions. You are not in need of attending both if you speak this evening. This is being recorded, so it will be reviewed and added into the discourse of our study group. So if you are at this one, you don't feel like you have to attend the other one as well. And we will record that one for public review as well. We want to make sure that all of our material is transparent. So kind of want to get into a little bit of how we arrived at this point. And like I said, I really want to spend as much time as I can hearing from those of you who've taken some time out to speak to us tonight. So I'll briefly go through this. I also, just a couple other notes, I'm not monitoring the chat right now. So if you're putting things in the chat or have questions in there, I'm not keeping track of that yet. I will go back into the chat later if you feel more comfortable asking a clarifying question or making a statement there that you want read into the record, as opposed to speaking or where we run into some technical difficulties. But kind of as background for how we've arrived at this. So obviously, Carmel High School was founded in 1940. The mascot of the school, since its inception, has been the Padre. And the Padre figure has been synonymous with the school and the larger Carmel community for over 80 years. However, there has been some change in public opinion over time that was brought to light over the last summer, that there were members of our community who were concerned that the mascot may not still uphold the vision of the school. This is not the first time this conversation has taken place. There have been other petitions and other moments where the school has been asked to reconsider its mascot. And so over the summer and the fall of last 2020, the governing board tasked me as the principal to convene a study of the mascot to see if it was still in line with our vision for the school. So that is why we are considering the question, and why we're discussing this. I presented to the board back in August of 2020 that the goal of our study was going to be looking at three things: was to look at the viability of our current mascot as it was related to the reflection of the values of Carmel High School as defined by the school's current mission statement of creating connected citizens, high-level thinkers, and successful individuals. Was it a mascot that was supportive of inclusion of all students? And was it a unifying figure on our campus? The mascot study group has now been meeting for almost a year. We had an application process where we had 45 applicants to join the group, made up of alumni, community members, parents, students, staff, and site administration. And that group has been taking in a lot of different data sources. You may have taken our online survey that we administered last month. And that survey data was published somewhat prematurely in the most recent edition of the Carmel Pinecone. That data is working document data at this point. It was not refined and framed for public consumption. So it may have been a little confusing to read that material and make a determination that this is not an up-down vote, that it is a discussion that this group is having about seeking as much input as we can from the community at large to then make an informed decision about the future of the mascot at our school site and what direction we want it to head. So that's kind of the background, if you will, in terms of why we're having this conversation. For tonight, our process this evening will be quite straightforward. We want to hear from the community, whether it's from students, whether it's parents, community members, alumni, and we want to make sure that we hear from you and not just make this decision or this conversation and be about a vacuum. In deference to time, we're going to provide speakers about a 5-minute window. We only have about 20 people on this tonight, so it's a smaller group, so we may be able to be a little more flexible. But if you want to share your thoughts and share your opinions, we're going to try to manage this in 5-minute increments. And really what we're looking for in this conversation is for you to share with us as a group, sorry, I'm changing position, whether you feel the mascot is a fair representation of the school's values or if a change needs to be made. We are not seeking alternative mascots at this time. I've had some people email me saying, what about this and what about this, or that sort of thing. That's not the question in front of us. The question right now in front of us is whether the current mascot that we have, the Padre, reflects the vision and values of the school as we define them. And we want to make sure that this is a conversation that is respectful of people's viewpoints. We know that there are views on both sides of this issue. And my role as the principal is to facilitate this conversation. I have no opinion about this. My role is to listen, to process, to take all this in and try to bring forward to the governing board a recommendation. We as a study group will write a report based on all this information and bring to them a majority and a minority opinion, and allow the board then to make a decision based on board and ed code guidelines, what they would like us to do moving forward. So contrary to maybe what you've heard, no decision has been made. We're not in the business of crowdsourcing new mascot ideas. We are very much in the listening phase of the conversation. So we are asking that we keep it respectful, that we refrain from disparaging remarks about others, or that there's just negative commentary about why are we doing this in its entirety. We had two very large petitions that were brought forward, kind of on equal sides, that really brought us to the need to discuss the question. So with all that in mind, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so we can kind of see some faces here. And if you would like to speak and give us, again, your thoughts Love to hear from you. What you can do is raise your hand in the, I gotta find it. And I will try to recognize as you can. There's a couple ways we can do, you can do this. You can either put your name into the chat, or you can use the hand raising feature that comes as part of that. And so, and I will also try to kind of pick people out as I go. I see that Parker and Phyllis, I'm assuming it's Parker, would like to speak first. So Parker, the floor is yours. Feel free to unmute yourself and share your thoughts and your story with us. Parker, I think you're still on mute, so you might need to unmute yourself. I'm not sure I can, let me see if I can do it here. I think we're running into a little bit of technical difficulty there.
Okay.
There you go. Now
anyway,
there we go.
I'm one of those old guys. I was born at the hospital in June 1940. I graduated class of 1958. I didn't know much about the California mission. I knew I was on a couple of athletic teams, and I knew that our mascot was the Padre. I never thought much about the chubby little fellow. It was cute. Anyway, when I got done, I remembered, going up to Humboldt, go to college, took a California history class, and all of a sudden the professor was talking about the California Trail of Tears. And in 1864, apparently the Rumson and the Ohlone people from my home area were gathered up and marched off to Chino. Wow. Well, so, I was 24 years old. I set that aside. Anyway, it took a long time until I ran into this book, An American Genocide by Ben Madley. And if all I would suggest to people, I don't want to use a lot of time, if you just read page 31 in Ben Madley's book, An American Genocide, it deals with the subtitle is California Indian Catastrophe. To me now, after having read that and find out he has 73 pages of footnotes in that book. So the guy is a Yale scholar. He's been to Oxford. It's not, anyway, he's not the guy I meet there at Trader Joe's gathering my groceries. So anyway, if people would just take a look at The American Genocide by Ben Madley, page 31, it had a tremendous effect on me, as you can tell. And so for me now, the Padre, although it was always, as I was growing up, sort of meaningless, when I see it now as the emblem of the mascot for my school, and as you described the three principles around which our school is organized, I don't think that the Padre is the best image we could have. So anyway, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate, I wouldn't trade jobs with you. Hey, if Ragged, if you're watching this, make sure you give me credit. I was one of those guys that got straight A's in Spanish.
Awesome, thank you. Appreciate
Okay.
that. Yeah.
See you later.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Parker. Deanne Peterson has her hand up. Deanne, please feel free to unmute yourself and give us your thoughts and your experience and your story.
Thank you. I actually normally don't speak at things like this, but I felt really strongly about the mascot. So I just wrote something I'll read real quick.
Please.
I wanted to speak tonight because I feel very strongly that the mascot is not a reflection of Carmel High School. In past years, the Padre mascot was just a mascot. But as we know more about history and the realities of life for Native Americans under mission rule, the Padre has a new meaning, a meaning that does not fit with our values. We want a mascot that represents who we are as a high school community. We are a community that is kind and compassionate towards others. When we hurt someone, we make amends. We honor tradition, but recognize that some traditions are hurtful and rooted in oppression, and we are strong enough to let go of those traditions. Our mascot is a representation of who we are. We can be a community living in the past, afraid of change, or we can move forward with purpose and integrity. And as a parent of a freshman in high school, I really hope that that as my kids go through the high school, that that they are proud of their mascot and feel like it does represent who they are. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanne. Appreciate you sharing. Vivi Fenwick. Hi, Vivi. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Please feel free.
Like others, I don't envy you. And I know I speak up at certain things, but this is not one I generally jump into. I think like a lot of people, I didn't think much of the mascot until the question came up. And as I thought of it, I'm part of there's the history of what it means. And there's also the inclusivity and the inclusivity of everybody that's part of the community. And so I'm part of an interfaith couple. We have different faiths, religions, creeds, national origins, and I'm not sure that the Padre represents that in the best way.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Vivi. Happy to open up to other commentary. Again, feel free to raise your hand. Trying to kind of, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Emily, I'm not even going to make a pass at your last name. That way I don't mess it up. So
that's okay. Emily Ligren, I graduated in class of 2006. I also staff the desert trip that occurs every year. I have reflected a lot on this question and really appreciated seeing the petition come around initially. And I really resonate with what has been shared around reflecting and realizing the possible hurtful impacts of having a mascot who is someone who perpetuated genocide, both cultural and literal genocide of so many people. And I want to invite us to think not only about the students in our own community of this school, but also the students whose sports teams we play. The mascot is a broader face than just the people we're interacting with. And also as a secular student who didn't hold any faith, it also felt really strange to me personally to be encouraged to root for this religious figure.
wonderful. Thank you, Emily. Appreciate that. Next up, Dee Dee. Dee Dee, please feel free to share.
Mishishu Yakao. Kanapai Tiri Manzanares Ibarra, Ka'a Rumshin Amatu Ratai Oholone. Good evening. My name is Didi Manzanares Ibarra. I'm the tribal chair of Rumsen Amatu Ratai Oholone. My people are from the land of Carmel. I'm on here tonight because I want to share a little bit about my ancestors and what they endured in the missions. We found in going back and reading the notes that Junipero Serra would write back to the Pope. He would share the stories of the beatings that he would give to my ancestors when they would try to run away and how many lashings would be given. We read those notes. We felt the hurt. And anytime I visit that mission to pray for my ancestors, my heart hurts so bad. I never leave there happy. I leave there with so much sadness and so much pain that has been passed on through our DNA. This was not a good man. This was a man who enjoyed torturing the people. This was a man who was sent here to do nothing more than convert these so-called savages, these animals who were my family. He was taking orders, mistreating and abusing these people just because they wouldn't go along with his religion. After leaving so many times, they would be killed. And we try to go back and find our family's names in those records, and we can't find them to prove who we are anymore because according to some people, they didn't exist. Well, we know they existed. They just hid them and buried them in the walls of that mission and buried them underground in unmarked graves, piled them together and killed them. And we're supposed to be happy with that man. We're supposed to be happy with the places that are marked in tribute to that man, the one at the Capitol that says that we owe him for civilizing our people, that's wrong. That's wrong. Anyone who would glorify him, that was wrong for the Pope to glorify him and make him a saint and expect us to bow down before him. I just can't do that. I can't take this forced religion. I can't do that anymore. The people that were forced into slavery. You know, my heart hurts so bad for what our family went through. We had to hide. We had to escape that place. They tried to make it so that if we weren't converted, we were gone. Well, you know what? We survived. We survived whatever they tried. We still exist. We are still here and we are going to fight. We are going to fight so that they know our people are here. We are going to speak our languages again. We are going to do our ceremonies again, and nothing or no one is going to stop us. And we are going to tell the truth of what this man did to us. And we are going to make sure that our children and our grandchildren and all future generations know what happened to us. We are going to be allowed to tell our story one way or another. Thank you for your time and thank you for listening.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Dee Dee. Next up on our list, Donna Otero. Donna, please unmute yourself and feel free to make your commentary.
Donna Manzanares Otero. In Kama Itmentirus Carmenta. Chia Makiete Rot. Kashunist. Rote. Kamahinti in Hekchost. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak. You know, this is a really hard subject. Our people are alive. We are well. And you know what? I am so proud that there are so many people that are stepping up and finally realizing the truth, the hurt, the pain, the suffering that has been handed down through our DNA. We can't help who we are or what we are or how we feel. And you know, we're not all Catholic. Not everybody worships in the same way. We are respectful to every other religion. But it's time for people to start being respectful to how we worship. We worship Creator, one Creator. And it's hard. It's very hard. I went to visit the mission because I felt it calling and I felt that I had to go and pray on that land. You know, I was treated so horrible by the people at the mission. They tried to make me pay to get in. You know what? I will never pay to go to any cemetery or any other place as that to pray and to honor and to ask for guidance from our ancestors. You know, our ancestors, they are speaking to us. Too many of us don't listen, don't hear what they are saying. And as far as our people migrating down to Chino, I'm sorry, Mr. Parker, maybe it was. It's a myth. We did not all go to Chino. We migrated all the way down south to Southern California. Those are not the only Rumsen people. There's many people. And I ask that, you know, you all just take into consideration, you know, maybe it's time that you reevaluate your vision and values of reevaluating this mascot of yours. To us, he's not an honorable man. He's nobody that I would ever even want anything to do with, you know, and to bow down to him and to worship him in the way and make him a saint, you know, like was said. That was totally wrong, you know, because our people are still hurting. We're still fighting and we're not going to stop. We are not going to stop. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Donna. I appreciate that. Marianne Carbone, please. Marianne, feel free to unmute and share.
Okay, thank you. Kinonohe Elape Ku'i Ku'il Nku. I am going to put the video back on, and hopefully you can see this. Maybe not.
Little bit.
Okay. That's a picture of my great grandma and a picture of my mother. They lived on 2nd Street in Carmel, set by 2nd and Guadalupe, the old Soto place. And they were they're of indigenous descent and they grew up in Carmel. My mother is not with her mom. She's with her grandma who had raised her because of hard times up in the Carmel area. They used to have to go and hide to practice their ceremony. They'd walk over towards the Jack's Peak area because they'd get whipped if they were to practice their religion. The question was, does the Padre reflect the mission statement of the school? I don't think that he does. I don't think the representation of Carmel High School would be, or the mission statement of the high school would have anything to do with separation of family. In this case, with the separation of indigenous family. I know that we practice culture and, you know, this month is Asian History Month. You know, there's because of this Padre, there was a loss of the indigenous culture and family values. I don't think that Carmel High School stands for that. And I speak for the people who are here on the Zoom with us, and I speak for my family who no longer would even go up to the Carmel Mission any longer, that you can't catch them there. When you see the jawbones coming out of the cemetery and the tourists stepping on them, that we have to go and ask the church to pour rock over. So when the tourists are taking pictures there, so that they're not stepping on the bones of our ancestors, in which I have family there. We suffer through generational trauma due to the mission system. Many people and descendants of the ancestors, we suffer through generational trauma that's passed down through our DNA. I'm a local. I don't want to really identify myself who I am, but I am a politician, and I'm here to talk tonight for the people and to stand for my ancestors. Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. Appreciate that. Vivi, is your hand still up, or did you want to comment again? Okay, so okay, good. Anyone else? The floor is open. Feel free to raise your hand, or I'm gonna kind of peek around to see if I see anybody up. Oh, Parker, do you have an additional comment you wanted to make?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Years ago, like 2,000 years ago, the swastika was a great symbol. And even in World War I, we had troops in our army who had the swastika on their shoulder. But that other guy, you know, Hitler, changed it all. No, but every time I see that symbol, I'm disgusted. Whether it's on TV, whether in person in a parade here in Reading, whatever, I'm disgusted. And I just don't want the mascot of my high school to generate that level of disgust in me or my kids. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Charlene, please feel free to unmute, and then after that, it'll be Susan. So Charlene, please.
So number one, I would just want to say thank you for holding this meeting. I know that it's an administrative process, so you kind of have to do this to collect all the information. But I also want to thank all the people that are attending this meeting, to give them an opportunity to also voice their opinion. I generally don't attend these kinds of meetings. I host these meetings. I'm a mediator by trade. So I know that these conversations can be very difficult. I am the chairwoman of the Confederation of Ohlone People, and I personally, while my members don't all come from Carmel, my family does. And so that I thought it was really important when somebody reached out to me to tell me about this, that I attend. The only big thing that I would like to say is, you know, the people that spoke on behalf of the Ohlone people did an amazing job. So I do appreciate that. And I don't really want to repeat what they had to say, but to support it. And the other thing that I just wanted to add was about the timeliness of this conversation. Now, some of you may or may not know that just yesterday, it was announced that the bill to replace the Junipero Serra statue in California's state capitol park was approved to be changed. And so this change is happening all across the country, just the consideration of statues and mascots and how we represent our country. You know, what is it to be an American and who do we want to be? And just an opportunity to really think about our young people and, you know, what represents their future the best. So again, just the timeliness of this discussion is really good. And it really is an opportunity to think about a new representation for the high school. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlene. Susan Reese, please, you're next. Go right ahead.
I will introduce myself traditionally. My name is Susan Reese Mashike. I am the daughter of Lillian, who carries the clan Mashike and the family name Mashike, meaning turtle. My mother's people is from the Adawa Nation along the shores of Lake Michigan. I'd like to make a suggestion to your study group that your study group get cultural competency specific to California Indian history. I think that that's very, very important to make the correct and informed decisions that you feel you need to make. I would also implore and emphasize the importance of the Native voice in all of this. Listen to them, talk to them, invite them in. I don't know how many Native people you have as part of your study group, but I certainly would encourage you to include them in the discussions and the things that are being said. Everything that the Native people said so far is absolutely the truth. 94 to 97% of California Indians were wiped out as a direct result of the gold rush. Babies were snatched from mothers' hands and smashed against the trees. Total and complete genocide. It's amazing that any of the people that are indigenous to this place now called California are even here. Their songs, their dances, their language was decimated along with the people. So these are the kinds of things that I feel that need to be talked about and discussed, and you need to start looking at your curriculum. These are the things that can start probably in 4th grade and continue on into high school. I would strongly recommend that you have a California Indian history curriculum meeting all those age groups and really look at that and change your mission statement to vision statement. Mission is another word that sends us reeling. It's improper. And I think that what you're really talking about, what you really want to do is have a new vision for your school. Miigwech. I have spoken.
Thank you, Susan. Appreciate that. I apologize. I'm going to mess this name up. Is it Evan or Evine?
It is. It's Evan LaValle.
Okay. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Go right ahead.
Thank
Please.
you. Thank you for allowing us all to speak. And I really appreciate hearing everyone else's opinions so far. And I am an alumni. Both of my parents were teachers at Carmel High School. And I am incredibly disheartened to know that based on the recent yet somewhat biased survey, that most of those participating in that survey want to continue a legacy with a mascot that represents exclusiveness and genocide over welcoming a mascot that could invite inclusiveness as well as better represent our student body. I hope that past generations who are persistent on keeping what they claim as their mascot will forego that attachment and allow the mascot to represent the current generation, a generation that no longer wants to tolerate the harmful messages we send by allowing the Padre mascot to stay. The Padre has never represented my beliefs as a fellow alumni, nor most of my fellow friends who were also alumni. I am also concerned by the recent Pinecone article where the results of the recent survey were leaked, and would like to know what accountability is happening with that, as it doesn't provide a lot of trust with who was selected for the advisory committee. I truly hope that we can show the community that we are a district that has grown beyond this much dated mascot, that we care, and that our morals are guided by equality. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Next up, Guru Khalsa, please.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for sharing. Really moved by hearing everyone's comments tonight. My name is Guru Darshan Singh Khalsa. I am a graduating alumni from class of 2000. I played all the sports. I was part of all the clubs, and I never once cheered for the Padres. I always cheered for Carmel High School. I was raised as a Sikh in pretty challenging time during Desert Storm. So I was always bullied, and my parents moved me from a school where everyone's families were in the military, and they moved me into Carmel, where it'd be easier and better. And then I was faced with this really weird experience that still brings up a lot of emotions in me, which was being at a school with a mascot that everyone's cheering for, that represents a religion that was oppressive to my parents, which is why they converted basically. The laughter, Parker. In a sense, my parents fled religious persecution in modern times in a way. And I was subject to that, and I raised my hand when I was in high school and no one was listening to me. And I'm really moved. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. Take your time.
I'm really moved that people are listening now, and that we as a community can listen to everybody and have a conversation. And while I respect the opposing group's opinion around what they feel around tradition and history and heritage, I think even if you don't want to tie the Padre to Junipero Serra and you want to make the argument that it's just a Padre, it's still a religious mascot at its bare minimum. And if you want to take a step further, it's a male religious mascot. And you can keep going further and further than that. But regardless of what the poll says, I didn't see the numbers. If it was 15% of people saying this doesn't represent me, this hurts my feelings, I have emotional trauma because of it. Whether you're a community member, you know, I have an 11-year-old son. Like, I don't want him going to school with the Padres as a mascot. I just really feel we can do something better, and I don't see why we wouldn't. I really can't understand why we choose tradition and trauma and tying our mascot and what we are so proud of to everything. I owe a lot to Carmel High. I'm a professional photographer. I've gotten to travel all over the world doing my job because Carmel High gave me a great education. I got to learn about the arts. I still judge the film festival every year with Granbury. And I would love to teach there someday, but not if the Padre is the mascot. There's so many better options out there. So I'm looking forward to seeing what is chosen to replace it. Thanks for your time.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Rachel asked a question in the chat, and I will try to do what I can, Rachel, to elaborate on the survey. We put the survey out to basically anybody who was interested in taking it, identifying themselves in one of a variety of categories: current students, alumni, staff, parents, non-affiliated community members. And then we did a little bit of disaggregation by age, to try to get a sense of just kind of where general opinion was. Part of the reason we did the survey was we had kind of two competing petitions, if you will, and petitions are difficult creatures to work under because they're national petitions. They take on lives of their own. And so rather than just assessing that, we decided as a group to get kind of some baseline data to help inform our conversation. It was never our intention to just put out an up-down, vote. That's not how this process is working. It was never designed to be that way. Our role as the group is to discuss this from a variety of opinions to try to come to a recommendation to the governing board about what we feel is the most appropriate way forward. And we wanted to use both quantitative and qualitative tools to try to get a sense of what's the issue at play, and particularly for paying particular weight, being quite frank, to the student voice in this conversation, our current student voice, all the way down even to potentially the incoming ninth graders who will be part of this community moving forward. But also taking into account that this school is not 5 years old. This school has a rich history. So trying to capture all of these kind of differing viewpoints through a variety of methods, not just through a lot of schools when they go through this process, as I've talked to colleagues in other schools who have done similar experiences, it's never clean. I think that's something that I'm hoping that would be messaged forward in these open forums is there's viewpoints. It's not simple. These are hard questions. And so we're just trying to kind of cull as much information as we can. I have been going through the data as the representative lead chair of the committee to try to kind of siphon out what I felt was inaccurate or misplaced data to try to get to what is genuine. Some people, as an example, would select all of the options. Well, that's not really something that we would count statistically as significant. So trying to do what we could to kind of bring the data to some discussion point, but by putting it out kind of in its rawest form, without context, without understanding, that was never our intent, to just take a survey, release the data, and let the will of things go. It was to use that as a discussion point. I hope that answered your question, Rachel. Feel free to unmute. I know you also have your hand up, so if I didn't clarify or if you need more, please let me know.
Thank you. Yeah, I was having some microphone difficulties, but I resolved them.
The joys of Zoom.
So I appreciate you including some more information around the process, and it is a really critical conversation for our community to take up, and I acknowledge that stakes are high and emotions can be high and part of that, but these are critical conversations, and having the voices of so many and the wisdom of so many, I think, is just crucial. So I'm so thankful to those of you who shared this evening and shared with truth, and I just really want to acknowledge that. That's helping me to better understand many aspects of this cultural moment in many levels. I am an elementary school teacher, and so I feel a deep reverence and I feel a deep responsibility to facilitate learning experiences for my students that will move us all in a positive direction and hopefully repair some harm that has been part of our history. I would love to take that survey. For some reason, it didn't, well, it could be in my email. My email is a bit of a black hole, but I tried to sort through it, and I would love to be included as one of the stakeholders in that survey. But I'm thankful that I could be here today and share here today. And just to be very clear, I do not think that the Padre represents what Carmel Unified stands for currently. So thank you for giving me some space to share and including me in the process and conversation.
Well, we're glad you joined us. Thank you so much. We still have a little bit of time. I had originally kind of slated 6 to 7 for this. Emily, please, we have plenty of space. So if you'd like to unmute and share another thought, we have that moment.
Great, thank you. I also wanted to make sure that my comments were very clear that I do not support the current mascot, and add that I saw that tradition was one of the top reasons that were chosen by people who do support keeping the mascot. And I really want to invite the committee to reflect on, if that is our tradition, we're celebrating genocide and we're celebrating so many awful things that we, do not want to be supporting. And what are the implications of that? What are the possible impacts for Indigenous students who walk through the doors of Carmel High? What are the impacts for white students like I was to get the message that their comfort is somehow more important than the voices of people who have been marginalized in our community for so long? So I just really want to make sure that there's weight given to this conversation and this decision. And I see that there's a lot of care being put into this conversation and this process, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Again, I'm seeing hands. I don't know if there's people who just haven't taken their hand down yet, or so I'm just kind of clear the board here. If there are any other folks, and then we can kind of talk about, I'll share what are some of the next steps in our conversation. George, please. I think, George, you got your hand up. George Bremer, please. I think you need to unmute though, George, so we can hear you. I think you're still muted on the left-hand side of your screen. There's a little microphone. If you click that button, it'll turn.
There, am I coming through now? Very good.
Yes, there you go.
Jonathan, as you know, I wrote a letter to the trustees expressing my warm and fuzzy feeling about the Padre. After having done some dictionary looking, the dictionary definitions, I looked at 4 of them. And the Padre is not defined as a Catholic, but is defined primarily as a military chaplain and a man of good deeds, good intentions, and so forth. I did not associate our Padre with Junipero Serra. I called my daughter today. She is a graduate of Carmel High back in the, goodness gracious, I can't even remember when, probably the late 80s, Marty Bramer. And Marty is a very smart and intuitive person. She said, Dad, feeling about something as warm and fuzzy is not a reason. Is anybody hurt? And I feel like Guru Kalissa, rather choked up because of the comments made by the Dee Dee and Marianne and Susan. There's deep hurt here. And we must look at this not as the erasing of history, but the recognizing of how to do the best, how to do better. And my thinking on it at this point is one that is much deeper than the warm and fuzzy feeling that we've had with my grandchildren and my children who went to Carmel High and the games we went to, and we saw that punchy guy walking around. I think everybody had some warm feelings of that kind. But the serious human feelings here that Parker has mentioned, and Dee Dee and Marianne and Emily, those are the fundamentals, and it is hoped that they will be taken into serious consideration. So it's interesting. Thank you for giving me the insight and the feelings that I'm now sharing. And Guru, thank you so much. I really appreciated his comments and his deep, deep feeling.
Thank you, George. Appreciate you sharing. going to make a last call. If there are any other folks who'd like to add into the commentary. Ali, I think Ali's hand is up. Ali Kurz, please unmute and give us your thoughts.
Hi, Mr. Lyons. I would first like to say thank you to everyone that's spoken, and thank you, because this shows to me so much that this is important. And Mr. Lyons, you're in a tough spot because you opened this up. I feel that the decision should have been made and then said, let's have a committee on what we should change it to. And now you're on this train having to deal with trying to pacify everyone. But I just want to say, if you know better, you do better. And we need to do better. And as a parent of a high schooler right now and a Carmel High School alumni, and I'm not a California Native American, but I am Native American. And as a child, I was adopted into the Pomo tribe by Mother Bernice Torres, and my dad worked for the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And I grew up knowing the real California history. And there were more Native Americans in California than the rest of the United States put together. And look at it now. There's hardly any. And it's wrong. And we should not have the Padre. And I am frustrated because I can't like anything on social media that my kids are doing. I cannot support Padre TV, Padre Bob. It's so discouraging and disappointing at this point. And I want to be proud, and I want to share in what's happening in my community. And I can't do that at this point. And that's very frustrating. And I just want our school to do better. We know better and we should do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Ali. Appreciate that. Any other commentaries? Any other thoughts? There's a few things in the chat that I'll try to capture in our notes.
John, I think Donna was raising her hand again.
This one? Okay.
Right? Or no, you weren't? Oh, sorry. Thought I saw your hand up.
I think we're good. I'm trying to keep track of. This is now what teaching is like, by the way. You're in the middle of trying to do 43 things, and this is clearly why I am no longer a teacher, because I can't manage 10 things at the same time. So I think at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to wrap up, and I want to kind of share a little bit what our next steps are. We'll be hosting a second open forum that'll be in person. Again, you are not, if you've shared at this, I don't want you to feel incumbent of having to come to both. Both of these forums will be put into the discourse and be reflected in our reporting. I don't have a timeline on things right now. Obviously, this has been a strange year for us here at Carmel, as I mentioned at the beginning, at the high school, trying to reopen school in the middle of a pandemic, trying to figure out how to close now school up in the middle of a pandemic, and then reopening it in the fall. So I wish I could give everybody kind of a timeline on things. I think we're going to try to do due diligence here. We're trying to do as much work as we can, as quickly as we can, without glossing over or making we want to give the weight and the depth. We are, for our next meeting on the 13th, going to have it be a hybrid. So there'll be in person and on Zoom. So we're going to try to pull that off. There is on the school's website, and feel free to share this with other people. On the school's website is the link. It'll be this exact same link. If they want to Zoom in, and if they want to attend, they can sign up to attend. I know some people, the technology is a barrier. So we wanted to make sure that we gave the in-person opportunity for people to share. Following that, we also have a student forum. I think I've got a couple of students hiding in the conversation. We're going to do a students only forum next week, where kids will have a chance to kind of share. Sometimes our students, hopefully right now, they are at home, either wrapping up their homework or relaxing and getting ready to come back for tomorrow. So we're going to do that during the day. All of this information is going to be called together in a report. And again, that report will be given to the board to make a consideration. It is our intent out of that group to bring forth a recommendation as to what we believe our next steps will be, and try to make sure that that's valued. So please feel free in your personal networks to share this information with people. My email address, and I'll put it here in the chat for you as well, is jlyons@carmelunified.org. So if you have colleagues or friends who would like to share their information, who couldn't make the meeting tonight, or just have an opinion, please feel free to email me. We're collecting all of that information, adding that into our discourse. And so I want to thank you all for taking some time out to talk to us this evening, to share your stories, share your thoughts. The last thing I'm going to say before we call this a night is, for those of you that are alumni, we're always looking for volunteers who have you. I mean, Guru, I was kind of taken by your background in photography and the fact that you do work with Mr. Granberry. We are trying to reset our relationship with the larger community, and we want people to come and share their expertise with our kids, their experiences. So if you are have a particular skill set or job that you think kids would be interested in or want to share, reach out to me and we can set up a time where maybe you can come in and talk to one of our classes about what you do for a living, and outreach. We're trying to increase that kind of school to community connectivity. A lot of our kids think that the only pathway to success is go on to Harvard, and we're trying to kind of change the dynamic and say there are lots of pathways to success. We will certainly celebrate kids who go to Harvard. We're not going to not celebrate that, but the kids who go off to do other things as well. So if you as a community member have something that you would like to bring to the campus, we'd love to hear from you. And my door is always open. So please feel free to give me a call here at the school or email me, and we can talk more about how you might be able to get involved in Carmel High School. With that, we're going to wrap up this evening. Again, thank you so much for attending. And for those of you that want to share again on the 13th, we'll be available again on the 13th at 6 o'clock. So with that, we will close shop, and I'll say thank you and have a wonderful evening. Good night, everybody.